2 years of work is sitting in Jade Monroe's coat pocket. And the man whose name is on this building just sent 6 armed men to take it back. She's on level 4 of the parking structure. One heel gone. South exit covered. West section, unknown. Think. You find the path through impossible numbers every day. Find the path. She moves low, using parked cars as cover, trailing one hand along cold hoods in the dark. The maintenance corridor. Preston showed it to her himself. This is how I move when I don't want to be seen, baby. And she had thought that was intimacy. She understands now what it actually was. She comes around a corner and stops. Escalade. Black. Armored. Parked in the darkest section like it was always going to be there. She doesn't think. He yanks the door. Opens. She throws herself in and drops into the footwell with both hands pressed over her mouth. Outside, a flashlight beam. Sweeping closer. The man in the passenger seat doesn't move. Broad shoulders. Dark suit. The particular stillness of someone who is never surprised because they are always already 3 steps ahead. The flashlight passes over the rear window. Moves on. There's one more, he says. Low. Controlled. West column. Hasn't moved. He's not searching. Pauses. That's what I would do. She stays down. Then, now. She sits up. He turns around slowly. Korean. Mid-30s. Angular face. Dark eyes that take her in like a man cataloging a situation, not experiencing it. The hard drive in your coat pocket, he says. Her hand moves toward it involuntarily. The quiet laugh. Brief. Genuine. I'm not asking for it. I'm telling you I know it's there. He turns forward. The men looking for you work for Preston Weil. You know what happens when they find you. The driver starts the engine. The Escalade rolls up the exit ramp, unhurried, like it belongs everywhere. Through the rear window, Jade watches Preston's head of security standing at the bottom of the ramp, flashlight in hand, getting smaller. Then they're on Peachtree Street. Atlanta rain. Who are you, she says. Kang Seo-jin. The name snaps into place like a missing number. He's seen it. In Preston's private files. Kang operation. Neutralized through federal channel. On the news. Federal fraud investigation. KSJ Holdings. She heard Marcus say it once on a call she wasn't supposed to hear. The Korean situation is being managed. You're the Korean situation, she says. Something moves at the corner of his mouth. I've been called worse. Preston manufactured the federal case against you, she says. I know because I built the financial architecture that made it look credible. I didn't know what I was building. She holds his gaze. I know now. Silence. Heavier than the others. What's on the drive, he says. Everything. Every shell company, every transfer, every account. The freight corridors. What's moving through them? She thinks about the gala 6 weeks ago. Preston's hand on her wrist under the table. 30 people who saw it and said nothing. The bruise she spent 40 minutes smiling over. She thinks about the women in those freight corridors. I want it ended, she says. All of it. Preston while in front of a federal court, where charm doesn't work and money doesn't reach. The gate opens. They pull into a private drive. Dark stone building, 3 stories, security lights rising as they approach. Kang gets out. She sees him properly for the first time. The photographs in Preston's files made him look like a businessman. Standing here he looks like himself. And himself is something significantly more dangerous. He opens her door. My price. Full access to the drive. You decode everything. Nothing held back. He holds her gaze. In return you stay alive. The federal case against you disappears. And when it's done, Preston answers for everything on that drive. That's not a choice, she says. That's a wall with a door painted on it. Something shifts in his face. Not softening. A recalibration. Yes, he says. It is. She looks at him. The building. At the gate already closed behind her. One condition. Her voice is steady. I see every move you make with that information. I'm not a source you manage. I'm a partner you consult, or this drive never opens. He looks at her for a long moment. We'll discuss it inside. She gets out. One shoe. One bare foot. Hard drive in her pocket. Chin up. And she walks through the door of the most dangerous place she has ever chosen to enter. Chosen. For the first time in 2 years, that word belongs to her. If you want to know what's on that drive, and trust me, it goes deeper than Preston, deeper than Kong, deeper than anything Jade is ready for, subscribe and stay close. And drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? I want to know how far this story is traveling. The woman waiting inside doesn't introduce herself. She looks at Jade the way a surgeon looks at a chart, not unkind, just efficient, and says one word. Foot. Jade looks down. The bare foot has left a thin red trail across the entrance tile. She hadn't felt it until now. I'm fine. You're bleeding on my floor. The woman hands her a towel. I'm Min upstairs. 4 minutes later the foot is wrapped, clothes are on the bed, and Min is at the door. No outgoing calls without authorization. Work starts at 6. She pauses. The drive is why you're here. Don't forget it. She leaves. Jade sits on the edge of the bed. The hard drive is in her palm, warm from her body heat. She puts it on the desk. He does not sleep. 6:07 a.m. The operations room. Long table. Screens. 3 people already seated. Kang at the window, back to the room, hands clasped behind him. Her hard drive is already connected to the laptop at the far end. He stops. Who accessed that? No one, Min says. It's encrypted. We've been waiting. Jade looks at the back of Kang's head. You could have started without me. No, he says, still facing the window. We couldn't. She sits. Opens the 4-layer decryption sequence she built herself. 6 months ago, when she first noticed the numbers that didn't add up and started, quietly, building herself a way back in. She had called it professional caution. She understands now it was survival instinct. The drive opens. She starts with the shell structure. 3 layers deep, each one cleaner than the last, each one routing money further from Preston's name. He stops, leans forward. What? Kang says. He has moved from the window without her noticing. He is standing 2 feet behind her left shoulder. She points at the screen. This account structure. I built this 8 months ago. Preston told me it was a development projection for the Southwest Corridor. It wasn't, Kang says. No, it's a laundering channel. The money moves through 4 shells and lands in the Southeast freight corridors. She pulls up the destination. Coastal Transit Partners. The room goes quiet. The women, Min says from across the table. Flat. Like she has known this for a long time and is only now confirming it. Yes, Jade says. She keeps going. And then she stops again. Her own formatting. She would know it anywhere. The way she structures transfer columns, the date sequencing, the notation system she developed in graduate school that she has never seen anyone else replicate. It is as individual as a signature. It is all over layer 5. I built this, she says. Nobody speaks. He gave me pieces. Told me each one was something different. A development fund. Contractor model. A logistics projection. Her voice stays completely level. She is a forensic accountant. She does not let numbers make her emotional. I built his laundering architecture. I just didn't know the pieces were connected. Kang moves to stand across from her. Looks at the screen. Then at her. You didn't know, he says. That doesn't change what I built. It changes everything about what you built. Does it? She looks at him directly. Those women moved through a system I designed. I made it efficient. I made it clean. I made it look like real estate. She sets her jaw. I am going to sit at this table until every layer is decoded and handed to someone who can burn it down. That is not negotiable. A long moment. I know, he says. That's why you're here. 2 hours later, she finds it. Here. She turns the laptop to face him. The federal fraud case against your organization. This is the account that funded the evidence submission. She pulls up the ownership chain. 2 shells, 1 personal account. Preston Weil. Direct. He didn't hide it at this layer because he never expected anyone to get this far. Kang looks at the screen. His face doesn't change. But his right hand, resting on the table, goes completely still. The stillness of a man not allowing himself to do what his hands want to do. 18 months, he says. The weight of it sits in the room. He recruited me, Jade says quietly, because I could build the architecture that made it credible. I was the tool he used to come after you. Kang looks at her. And now you are the tool that dismantles it. I'm not a tool, she says. Not anymore. Something moves through his expression. Fast, controlled, filed away. No, he says. You're not. Min walks back in faster than usual. Jaw set in a way that is new. She sets a tablet on the table without a word. Local news. A Chiron running across the bottom. Sought for questioning. Jade Monroe. Forensic accountant. While development financial irregularities. Her photo. Name. Her face. Words like erratic. Unauthorized access. Concerning behavior. Jade reaches over and turns the tablet face down. Puts both hands flat on the table. Breathe. Warrants, she says. 2 counts. Filed this morning. Min pauses. They also called your emergency contact. I don't have an, she stops. My mother. An hour ago. Jade closes her eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Opens them. The anger is there, not hot, not shaking. Cold. Structural. The kind that doesn't burn out. The kind that makes everything slightly clearer. The way winter air sharpens the edges of buildings. How long before he moves the coastal transit operation, she says. If he knows we have the drive, 48 hours. Maybe less. She looks at Kang. Then we don't have time to be careful. We have to move. There's a federal investigator, he says. Camille Osei. She's been building the Southeast Trafficking Task Force for 2 years. She needs the decoded ledger in her hands before Preston moves those routes. He holds her gaze. There's an event tomorrow night. Downtown Atlanta. She stares at him. Preston's fundraiser. Yes. My face is on the news. Yes. He doesn't blink. Which is why you won't look like yourself. The room is quiet. Jade looks at the laptop. At the decoded layers of the machine she helped build. At her own formatting in layer 5. Column after column of her work, her precision, her 2 years. She looks back at Kang. I'm going. Not a question. I know. Not a refusal. She turns back to the screen. Then I need everything decoded before morning. She keeps working. She finds it at 11:47 p.m. Not a name. Not yet. Pattern. A routing authorization on page 31 of the Coastal Transit payment logs. Easy to miss. A 4-digit approval code that doesn't match Preston's format. Preston uses 6 digits. Always. She built 3 models around his approval architecture. She knows his system the way she knows her own handwriting. This code has 4 digits. Someone else approved this payment. Someone with access to both Preston's operation and Kang's legitimate business accounts, because the payment routes through one of Kang's shells before reaching Coastal Transit. She stares at the screen. Someone in this building has been feeding Preston for months. She keeps working. By 2:17 a.m. she has a name. 3 more matching codes. 11 months of payments. Same 4-digit format. Same internal routing. Cross-referenced against Kang's access logs. And there it is. Park Juno. She's met him once. Briefly. Mid-40s, silver at the temples. He moved through this building like a man who had moved through it 10,000 times before. Kang's oldest lieutenant. Here since the beginning. Close as brothers. One of the analysts said it like it was something to admire. She looks at the authorization codes. 11 months. She takes the decoded page, places it at the bottom of her document stack, puts her notepad on top of it, and keeps working like she found nothing. 2:34 a.m. The knock is unhurried. Park Juno opens the door without waiting, the entry of a man who has never needed permission in this building. Dark jacket, collar open. He looks at Jade across the room with pleasant surprise. Still at it. Almost done. She doesn't look up. He walks to the coffee station. Pours a cup. She tracks him in her peripheral vision without moving her eyes from the screen. Find anything useful. There it is. Too casual. Weighted underneath with something trying very hard not to have weight. She has spent 2 years reading Preston Weil, a man exceptional at casual. She knows what casual costs when it's performed. She looks up. Routing structures. Account layers. She holds his gaze with the steadiness of a woman who has sat across from audited executives for 6 years. Nothing identifying yet. She watches his face. A fractional release around his eyes. Less than a second. Gone before it finishes arriving. Confirmation. Get some rest, he says. Big day tomorrow. I will. He leaves. She waits until his footsteps disappear completely. Then she takes the page from the bottom of the stack and stands up. She knocks once on Kang's office door. Come in. No jacket. Sleeves rolled. A man who hasn't slept and has made peace with it. She puts the decoded page on his desk without sitting down. The coastal transit routing authorizations. 4-digit approval codes. 11 months. They route through one of your shell accounts before reaching Preston's operation. She points to the name at the bottom. Park Juno has been running a financial channel for Preston while from inside your organization. Kang does not move. He looks at the page. He looks at it for a long time. His face doesn't change. But the quality of stillness in the room does. The way temperature shifts before a storm, before there's a single visible sign of weather. How long have you known, he says. Quieter than usual. She is learning that quiet means the opposite of what quiet usually means with him. 2 hours. Juno came into the operations room at 2:34 and asked if I'd found anything identifying. I told him no. I watched his face. He pauses. He believed me. He doesn't know I have the full access logs. We have a window before he reports back to Preston. Kang looks at her now. Not at the page. Her. You managed the room. It's what I do. Silence. How long did you suspect, she says. He moves to the window. Atlanta at 2 a.m. Rain finally easing, city lights coming through cleaner. 6 weeks. He says it like he's setting something heavy down. Anomalies in the operational calendar. Things Preston's people shouldn't have been able to see. Safe house rotations, personnel movements. I suspected. I didn't have confirmation. You have it now. Yes. Beep. The weight of 11 months sits between them. Juno knows about the fundraiser, she says. If he's been feeding Preston your operational calendar, Preston already knows the plan. The transfer to Camille Osei. He knows it's coming. The silence that follows has weight. Which means tomorrow night just became significantly more dangerous, she says. Preston won't wait for us to reach Camille. He'll move first. Then we move first. Kang turns from the window. We let Juno believe the plan is unchanged. Let him report back. And we use what Preston thinks he knows against him. You want to use the leak as the trap. Yes. That only works if Juno doesn't find out we know before tomorrow night. She holds his gaze. Which means you can't confront him. Not yet. His jaw tightens. 1 beat. Agreed. She looks at him. A man being asked to sit across a table from someone who has been working against him for 11 months and perform normalcy. She does not underestimate what that costs. He's going to be in the same room as you all day, she says. And you can't let him see it. Can you do that? He looks at her for a long moment. Can you walk into a room with the man who put his hands on you, he says quietly, and smile? The words land. She has not told anyone in this building about the gala. Not the wrist. Not the bruise. Not the 40 minutes. Not the 30 people. Her face doesn't move. How do you know about that? Min. The way you held your arm when you got out of the car. It's healed. That's not what I asked. She holds his gaze. Yes, she says. I can do it. He nods. Low. Then so can I. She picks up the decoded page. I'll have the full ledger ready before morning. Everything Camille needs. She moves toward the door. Jade. He stops. He has not used her name before. Not once. He turns. He is still at the window, looking at her with something underneath the clinical assessment, underneath the recalibrations, something he hasn't filed away yet. What he did at that gala, Kang says. The 30 people who said nothing. Was. That ends too. She looks at him. She doesn't say thank you. Thank you isn't the right word and they both know it. She nods once, and walks back downstairs. Min walks in at 6 and sets the coffee down without preamble. Dana Reeves was picked up last night. Downtown. No badges. Her assistant got 2 calls out before they got to him too. The cold hits Jade's chest like a hand pressing in. Preston. The holding company traces to the Cayman Islands. That's his structure. Jade stands. He took her because I mentioned her name in this building. She looks at the phone on the table. Juno had access to it. Someone swapped it before it reached your room, Min says. He's been listening. One beat. So Preston knows about Camille. The fundraiser. The drive. Jade sets her jaw. And he has Dana. Yes. She picks up the coffee. Drinks it. Sets it down. Where is Kang? He is in the operations room with 3 of his people and an expression she hasn't seen before. Not the controlled surface, not the recalibration. The foundation material. A man processing multiple simultaneous betrayals and refusing to let any of them move faster than he can manage. He looks up when she walks in. You heard, he says. All of it. She sits across from him. I need to ask you something. Honestly. Ask. The federal investigation into KSJ Holdings. You knew Preston manufactured it. Yes. And Camille Osei's task force. She's been investigating you simultaneously. Jade holds his gaze. You knew that too. Was. Yes. So the plan was never just about surfacing the evidence, she says. You needed someone credible to hand the ledger to Camille. Someone with 2 years of inside knowledge and clean hands. Someone who could walk it through the front door while you stayed at arm's length. He pauses. You used me. Not the way Preston used me. But you used me. Kang does not look away. Yes. She stares at him. That's it. Yes. What do you want me to say? Tell me the difference between what you did and what he did. Preston built the entire architecture around you before you ever walked into a room with him, Kang says. 2 years of your life, your work, your trust, weaponized without your knowledge. He holds her gaze. I gave you a choice in a parking garage at midnight. A bad choice, a wall with a door painted on it, but a choice. You walked through it with your eyes open. Silence. She hates that he is not wrong. With the specific fury of a woman who has built her career on seeing things accurately and cannot argue with the math. Dana, she says. We're locating her. That's not good enough. She leans forward. He is dismantling everything around me one piece at a time, and we are sitting here talking about your moral inventory. Find Dana. Tonight. Before the fundraiser. Or I walk in alone and hand Camille everything myself. And you get nothing. Kang looks at her. You'd do that, he says. Not a question. Try me. Something moves through his expression. Yes. The closest thing to admiration she has seen on a face that does not perform emotions. He picks up his phone. For words in Korean, low and final. Ends the call. Location within the hour, he says. She sits back down. They work in the same room and do not speak. Jade finishes the final ledger. 30 pages of forensic analysis. Every shell, every transfer, every payment route. Complex things made legible. She has always been good at that. Kang works at the other end of the table. Phone used sparingly. Voice always low. He does not apologize again. She respects this more than she wants to. At the 40-minute mark, Min walks in. Dana Reeves. Warehouse District. Old 4th Ward. Was. Alive. Unharmed. She's been narrating her own captivity out loud for 6 hours. Something loosens in Jade's chest. That's Dana. Pulling her out requires 2 people from the event security detail. Jade looks at Kang. Pull them, he says. Dana comes out first. Min nods. Leaves. Jade looks at Kang. He is already looking back. Thank you, she says. It's operational. She has documentation Kang. He holds her gaze. Thank you, she says again. Quieter. Not for the operation. He looks at her with something prior to all the controlled surfaces she has catalogued in 48 hours. He looks away first. Get changed. 4 hours. The woman Min brings in has quick, precise hands and the calm of someone who has done this particular kind of work before. 40 minutes later, Jade looks at herself in the mirror. Same face. Different impression. The architecture of her features rearranged just enough. The overall gestalt shifted in the way that defeats recognition without disguising individual features. From cameras, Jade says. Definitely, Dasha says, packing her case. From someone who knows your face well, depends how close they get. Jade looks at her reflection. Preston knows her face better than anyone alive. She picks up the earpiece from the counter. Kintone. She puts it in. Channel 2, Min says from the doorway. 2 of ours will be in the room. You won't know who they are. Kang is your cover. 4 years as a donor to the hospital foundation. Nobody looks at him twice. Nobody looks at him twice, Jade says. He looks like a businessman. He is very good at that. Is he? Or is that just what he wants people to see? Min holds her gaze for a moment. Those aren't different things. Not for him. He pauses. Be careful tonight. I'm always careful. Not about the room. About him. Min chooses her next words carefully. He doesn't bring people into operations. Not civilians. Not people he's responsible for the way he's responsible for you. He doesn't recalibrate well when something goes wrong with someone She stops. Just be careful. Jade looks at her reflection. Min. What happened to the last person he brought in? Min is quiet for a long moment. There wasn't one, she says. She leaves. Jade sits alone in front of the mirror. She thinks about Kang's face this morning. The one-word answer, no qualification, no performance. The 4 words in Korean that produced a location in 40 minutes. She thinks about the parking garage. Escalade. The laugh. Was any of it real? The question arrives before she can stop it. She doesn't have an answer. She stands up. Picks up the 30 pages of decoded ledger. Folded precise, tucked inside the lining of the evening bag. Looks at herself one more time. You built his machine, she says. Now walk into his party and burn it down. She turns off the light. The car leaves at 7:45. Jade sits beside Kang and watches Atlanta move past the windows. He speaks first. Ledger pages are inside my jacket. I'll pass them to you during the first course. Camilo say, table 9. Silver hair. She'll be introduced as a university administrator. Pauses. She's the real thing. She knows what she's looking at. Does she know it's us bringing the evidence? She knows someone is coming. She doesn't know it's you. He holds her gaze. When she sees you, she'll see a woman I brought to a donor dinner. Nothing more, until the pages are in her hand. Jade nods. A minute of silence. Earlier, she says. When I asked you what the difference was between you and Preston. You wait. I understand the difference, she says. I'm not saying it was right. I'm saying I understand it. He looks at her. Okay. 1 word. But the quality of it is different from every 1-word answer he has given all day. Something underneath it that has been waiting to be acknowledged. After tonight, she says. Dana gets the full story. After tonight she can have whatever she wants. Car slows. The hotel comes into view. Glass and stone. Preston Wiles Foundation name on the banner above the entrance in letters she can read from half a block away. Jade, Kang says. He turns. That expression again. The one underneath everything else. The one she hasn't found the right name for yet. Whatever happens in that room, he says. Stay close to me. I thought I wasn't a civilian. You're not. He doesn't look away. That's not why I'm asking. The car stops. Jade picks up her evening bag. 30 pages inside it. Preston's name above the door. Kang's hand, extended, waiting. He takes it. They walk in. The room is exactly what Preston built it to be. Warm light. White tables. Atlanta's skyline through floor-to-ceiling glass. 200 people moving through the space with the practiced ease of those who have been performing belonging their entire lives. Jade knows this room. Not this hotel, not this event, but this room. The geometry of power dressed as philanthropy. She spent 18 months learning to move through it on Preston's arm. Tonight she moves through it on Kang's. The difference is everything. Table 9, Kang says quietly, scanning the room. East wall. Already seated. Jade does her own inventory first. She finds his 2 operatives in under 90 seconds. One at the bar, one left of center, eyes making a slow sweep of the exits. Then she finds table 9. Silver hair. Late 50s. A face built for focus rather than expression. Camille Osei is mid-conversation, but when her eyes move across the room and land on Kang, they hold for exactly 1 second. That 1 second says everything. She knows we're here. They are seated. First course arrives. Under the table, without looking down, Kang slides the folded ledger pages from his jacket to her left hand, absorbed into the natural reach for his wine glass. No pause. No significance. She opens the pages in her lap. Reads once to confirm. Complete. She refolds them. Holds them flat against her thigh. She moves to the east corridor between courses, Kang says. 3 minutes. Alone. How do you know? Because I asked her to. Jade looks at him. You've done this before. Not this, he says. Not with someone like you. She doesn't know what to do with that. She files it and looks back at her plate. The east corridor is narrow and quiet, the room dropping to a murmur behind her. Camille Osei is already there. Jade Monroe, Jade says. I know who you are. Then you know what I've been building. I know what Preston Weil says you've been doing, Camille says carefully. And what do the numbers say? Jade holds out the pages. Camille takes them, opens them, reads the first 3 lines, goes very still. The coastal transit routing, she says. Complete account chain. Every shell, every transfer, every authorization. Jade pauses. 3rd active freight route. Port Meridian Terminal, southbound. Container 4419. KW. Moves in 48 hours. Camille looks up. How complete is this? I built the original models. I know every layer because I designed half of them. Jade holds her gaze. This is not a tip. This is a map. The warrants on your name, Camille says, are manufactured. Page 24. The account that funded the evidence submission against me traces directly to Preston's personal holdings. Same method he used against KSJ Holdings. Camille looks at page 24 for a long moment. I'll need you for formal testimony. Name the time. Camille nods once. Folds the pages inside her jacket. Get back to your table. Don't look at me again tonight. Jade turns back toward the main room. 4 steps. And stops. The quality of the room has changed. Not sound, not movement, something atmospheric. 200 people registering something they can't name but are already responding to. She looks through the archway. Preston Weil is standing 30 feet away. Looking directly at her. The horrible clarity of a moment that contains complete information. Preston in a charcoal suit. The even handsome face she woke up next to for 18 months. The face that went flat at the gala when she asked about Meridian. The face that smiled while 30 people watched and said nothing. He knows. Not from her face. She can see him processing the slight narrowing of his eyes. From someone else. She doesn't look for Juno. She looks for Kang. He is already looking at her. In the single second their eyes meet, she watches him read her face. The thing she is too controlled to show but that he finds anyway. and his hand moves once under the table. Min, he says through the earpiece. We have a problem. Stay at your table. Min's voice. Don't move toward the exit. Jade moves back into the room like a woman returning from the restroom. Hurried. Natural. She sits. Across the table, a council member is finishing a story about a golf tournament. 3 people laughing. The room performing itself normally around something that is not normal at all. She picks up her wine glass. Does not drink it. Preston hasn't moved. Beside him, Juno. Standing at his shoulder with the posture of a man who has just delivered information and is waiting to see what it produces. Kang, she says, barely moving her lips. I see them. Juno made contact 4 minutes ago. A pause. The weight of it from a man who misses nothing. The pages, Camille has them. Yes. Good. Then we have what we came for. Then why aren't we leaving? Preston just signaled 3 men at the north entrance. We stand up now, we walk into them. Beep. West. Through the kitchen. That's a long walk across an open room. With him watching. Yes. She sets down the wine glass. Then we walk, she says. They stand together. Natural. And hurried. 2 people finishing a conversation, moving to the next one. Kang's hand at the small of her back. Not protective. Social signal. We belong here. Look elsewhere. 20 feet to the kitchen entrance. 15. In. She doesn't look at Preston. She can feel the weight of his attention tracking her anyway. A man doing arithmetic and arriving at answers he doesn't like. From the corner of her eye, he moves. He's moving, she says. Keep walking. 5 feet. Kang. Keep walking. They push through the kitchen door. Loud. The sharp smell of people under controlled stress. Min in her ear. Loading dock. South side. Cars already there. They move fast, not running the pace of people with a destination. And they're through cold air Atlanta night, the sedan already running. They get in. Door closes. Car moves. 2 minutes of silence. Jade looks at her hands. Steady. She notes this with the detached professionalism of a woman who monitors herself the way she monitors accounts. The reality is her heart is moving faster than it should be, and it has nothing to do with Preston. Camille has everything, she says. Yes. Port Meridian. 48 hours. She'll move before morning. So it's done. The transfer is done, he says. Preston isn't. His phone lights up. He looks at it. And his face does something she hasn't seen it do in 4 days. Goes somewhere she cannot follow. Below the controlled surface, below everything she has catalogued and learned to read. Somewhere with no performance in it at all. Kang. He lowers the phone. Juno is out. He had someone inside the holding arrangement. Been free for 2 hours. Was. He took the working copy of the drive to Preston. But Camille has the ledger. The ledger is contained. But the original drive has the full financial architecture. If Preston gets it to his attorneys tonight, he can challenge the chain of custody on everything Camille holds. He can bury the investigation before it moves. The car is silent. How long, she says. 6 hours. Before Port Meridian becomes unstoppable. He looks at her. 6 hours to get the drive back. Where? He reads his phone. Freight transfer station. West Side Atlanta. Rooftop. She looks at him. We're not going back to the compound. No, he says. We're not. He speaks to the driver in Korean. The car changes direction. Jade looks out the window at Atlanta moving past in the dark. The fundraiser was not the endgame. It was the opening move. She reaches into the lining of her evening bag. The hard drive is still there. Flat. The weight of everything. Kang. He looks at her. Whatever happens on that rooftop, she says. I'm in the room. He holds her gaze for a long moment. I know, he says. Not agreement. Inevitability. The freight transfer station rooftop is wide and cold and wind-scoured. Atlanta's skyline burning bright behind everything that is about to happen. Two work lamps on portable generators flood the transfer area in flat white light. Juno is already there. Standing near the freight elevator access, the working copy of the drive in his hand, looking at them with the exhaustion of a man who has been carrying something very heavy for a very long time and has finally just dropped it. Kang stops at the rooftop door and looks at her. You stay behind me until I know the position. Agreed. If I tell you to run, I won't, she says. So don't tell me to. One long second. He pushes open the door. Juno looks at Kang. Something passes between them that has no language. 15 years of it. All of it in 3 seconds. He's not here yet, Juno says. Preston. He's coming. I know. I made a mistake. 11 months, Kang says. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Juno closes his eyes. Opens them. I know. Why? One word. But the weight behind it is everything. Their history, the years, the thing underneath the betrayal that is worse than the betrayal itself. Preston had real exposure on you 18 months ago, Juno says. Not the manufactured submission. Actual operational breach. I found it and didn't tell you because I thought I could handle it. I made a deal. Feed him enough to keep him satisfied. Keep the federal pressure manageable. He stops. I thought I was protecting you. You fed him my people, Kang says. I fed him information. I didn't know what he would. You fed him my people. The words land like something physical. Juno goes quiet. Yes, he says. I did. The wind moves between them. And the phone, Jade says. Both men look at her. You swapped the phone Min gave me. Dana Reeves spent 6 hours in a warehouse because of what Preston heard through it. Juno looks at her. The face of a man who has counted the cost and found it worse than he budgeted for. I know, he says. Is she out? Jade says into the earpiece. Min's voice. 20 minutes ago. She's safe. Something releases in Jade's chest. She looks at Juno. The drive, she says. He holds it out. Not to Kang. To her. He takes it. I came back, Juno says to Kang. I know it doesn't. Not now, Kang says. Flat. Compressed past its natural state. We finish this when the night is finished. Juno nods. And then the freight elevator hums. They move fast. Kang positions Jade beside the east stairwell door. Not behind it. Beside it. She notes the distinction. The elevator reaches the rooftop. The doors open. Preston Weil steps out. He looks exactly like himself. That is the thing she will remember. Not rage, not urgency. He steps onto that rooftop in a charcoal suit with the pace of a man attending something he organized. 2 men behind him. 2 more from the west stairwell. His eyes move across the rooftop. Juno. Kang's people. Then they find Jade. Smiles. The gala smile. The server room smile. The smile from every moment when his calculation confirmed itself. Jade. Warm. Even. 18 months of it. You look remarkable. He says nothing. His eyes move to the drive in her hand. This is straightforward, he says, addressing the rooftop like a boardroom. Both copies of the drive. You put them down and walk away. By morning the warrants on Jade's name are a paperwork error nobody pursues. He spreads his hands. Clean. And the women in the freight corridors, Kang says. Preston's expression doesn't change. Operational. Don't, Kang says. One word. Preston looks at him. Then at Jade. You built those models, he says. Softer now. Almost an appeal. You know what's on that drive. You know what it costs if it surfaces the wrong way. He holds out his hand. Give it to me and this is over. She looks at his hand. She thinks about the gala. His thumb pressing into her wrist with the deliberate force of a man who has decided she will stop speaking and she will smile, and this is not a request. 30 people who said nothing. Dana in a warehouse for 6 hours. Column 47. The women in the freight corridors. 2 years of making his machine run beautifully without knowing what it was grinding. She looks at his extended hand. And she thinks about what she is. Preston, she says. He waits, confident. The arithmetic already resolved in his favor. I'm a forensic accountant, she says. Not the title, what it actually means. It means I find the place where the numbers stop matching the story. I've been doing it for 6 years. I can look at a financial structure and read everything it's trying to hide. She holds up the drive. You needed me because I'm good at it. You built 18 months around me because I'm good at it. Jade. I've been inside your structure for 2 years, she says. Every shell, every transfer code, every authorization. I decoded it. I documented it. I can reconstruct every layer of it from memory. He pauses. You wanted the drive because you thought it was the only copy. Something shifts in his face. Dana Reeves has been free for 6 hours, Jade says. I gave her everything from memory 3 days ago. She has been building the story since before you took her. She looks at him steadily. The drive is evidence. But I am the audit. And Preston. One step forward. You cannot confiscate me. The rooftop goes completely silent. His hand is still extended. His face moves through several things in under 3 seconds. Confidence, recalculation, and then something she has never seen on it. Something stripped and exposed. No performance left to cover it. He reaches inside his jacket. Not for a phone. Kang moves. Complete economy, zero wasted motion, finding the fastest path like water around an obstacle. His hand closes on Preston's wrist before the movement finishes. Preston drives an elbow back. Kang takes it across the jaw and doesn't stop. They go sideways into a work lamp. It crashes, light swinging wildly, throwing everything into lurching shadow. Sarah and the others take the remaining men. Jade does not move. She stands exactly where she is with a drive in her hand and watches Kang put Preston against the rooftop wall. Forearm across his chest, one hand controlling Preston's right arm. The drive, Preston says, still reaching for the voice. Kang, listen. I have been listening, Kang says. Very close. Very quiet. The quality of his quiet on this rooftop different from every other room she has heard it in. For 18 months I have been listening to everything your operation produced in my city. You put your hands on her. Preston blinks. At the gala. 30 people. You put your hands on her and 30 people said nothing and you smiled. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't need to. And then you built a case to bury her. And then you took her journalist. And then you came to this rooftop to take the last thing she had left. Preston says nothing. The women in the freight corridors, Kang says. Their names are on that drive. Every one of them. He steps back. Preston straightens. Jacket Askew. For the first time in 18 months he looks like what he is. Not a developer, not a donor, not a man whose name belongs on buildings. Just a man on a rooftop who has run out of room. He looks at Jade. One last calculation. She looks back without expression. It's done, Preston, she says. It was done when I opened your server. He moves for the west stairwell. Kang shoots him in the leg. Flat. Final. The sound absorbed by the wind and the city below. Preston goes down. Not dramatically, the specific collapse of a structure that has lost its load-bearing point. One hand catching the wall. The other pressing to his thigh. Kang looks down at him. Every coastal transit contact. Every name, every route. You give them to Camille Osei tonight. He reaches into Preston's jacket. Takes out a folded set of pages. Hands them to Jade without looking at her. She looks at the pages. Every active contact. Every name. Every route. She looks at the drive in her other hand. She looks at the Atlanta skyline. Glass and light and the city that watched this happen and is about to watch it end. Camille, she says into the earpiece. We're on the rooftop. We have everything. Camille's voice comes back immediately. Team's already moving. 4 minutes. Jade exhales. Long something releasing that has been held for 6 weeks, for 2 years. For every room she smiled through and held her wrist against her side and told herself a version of events that required less from her. He turns. Kang is standing 3 feet away. looking at her with something below all of the controlled infrastructure. Something she understands now has been there since the parking garage. Since she got into his car and said please and he did not move and did not speak and let the men outside walk past. He has been looking at her like this since the beginning. She just didn't have the capacity to see it until now. It's done, she says. Yes. The warrants on my name. Won't survive the morning. Ginat looks at him. Kang, she says. Yes. In the car. After the fundraiser. I asked you something and you didn't answer. He goes very still. Was any of it real? She watches his face. He opens his mouth. And below them, up the east stairwell, Camille Osei's team. The rooftop door opens. 4 federal agents and Camille herself moving onto the rooftop with the focused efficiency of a woman who has been waiting 2 years for exactly this. Kang closes his mouth. He looks at Jade. She looks back. The question is still between them. He still hasn't answered. The warrants are withdrawn on a Thursday. Min appears at the guest room door at 7 a.m. with coffee and one sentence. It's done. Jade takes the coffee. Sits on the edge of the bed. She says the word to the empty room. What she feels is not clean or simple. It is layered, unresolved. The specific texture of someone who has been running so long that stopping feels like a new kind of danger. She drinks the coffee. She thinks about what comes next. Dana Reeves finds her at a coffee shop in Midtown. Dark circles she was born with. Jacket 2 sizes too large. The focused expression of a woman whose brain is always 6 steps ahead of the room she is physically in. She slides in across from Jade, puts a recorder on the table, then immediately puts it away. Not yet, she says. Coffee first. How are you? Jade says. I was in a warehouse for 6 hours narrating my own captivity to an empty room. Dana looks at her over the cup. I'm spectacular. They gave me the story of my career and free therapy. Beep. How are you? Jade thinks about it honestly. Working on it, she says. Dana nods. Does not push. This is one of the things Jade has always loved about her. The piece runs Sunday, Dana says. 3 parts. Coastal transit, the shell architecture, the survivor network. I want to include you not as the story, as part of it. I helped build it, Jade says. You didn't know what you were building. That's what everyone keeps saying. Because it's true. Dana holds her gaze. The women coming out of Port Meridian, 23 of them, Jade. 23. They're alive because you opened a server on a Sunday night and ran instead of staying quiet. He pauses. That's not a defense. It's a fact. There's a difference. Jade is quiet for a long moment. No quotes about him, she says. Dana doesn't pretend not to know who she means. None. Good. Keep it that way. Dana smiles. Real. Unperformed. The smile of a woman who has been her friend for 7 years and is not going to stop now. For what it's worth, Dana says. The way he looked at you on that rooftop. Dana. Completely finished, she says. She is not finished. But she lets it go. Preston Weil is indicted on 11 counts. Jade watches the press conference on her laptop in the new apartment she rented in West Midtown. Smaller than the one Preston helped her find, 3 blocks from nothing in particular, a window above the kitchen sink that needs replacing, a coffee machine that requires a specific sequence of button presses to produce anything drinkable. She chose every piece of it herself. She listens to each charge with the focused attention of a forensic accountant, who spent 2 days decoding the architecture behind every single count. She knows exactly where each one came from. She closes the laptop when it's done. Sits in the quiet of her own apartment. The quiet sits differently now. Not the quiet of someone performing safety they don't feel. The quiet of someone who has chosen to be still. She has not seen Kang since that night. She has thought about the unanswered question every day for 5 weeks. Was any of it real? She has been building a model. Not a financial one. The kind you build when you are trying to find the place where the numbers match the story. She is fairly certain she knows the answer. She wants to hear him say it. It is a Tuesday evening in early spring. Atlanta in April. Warm 1 hour, raining the next. The dogwoods along her street in full defiant bloom against a sky that cannot decide what it wants to be. She is at her kitchen table with a case file and the button sequence coffee when she hears the knock. Single. Not the building super. Not Dana. This knock has the quality she recognizes. Optional. Offering her the choice. She puts down the case file. He opens the door. Kang Seo-jin is standing in the hallway in a dark coat. No team. No operative at the stairwell. No car through the lobby window she checks because she is who she is. Just himself. She has catalogued his posture across every room for 4 days. She knows what operational Kang looks like. What recalibrating Kang looks like. What Kang managing something that costs him looks like. This is none of those. This is a man who has thought carefully about being here and is not certain of his right to want to be. And has come anyway. She has never seen him uncertain before. She finds it, against all reasonable expectation, the most compelling thing about him. You kept your price, she says. Yes. All of it. Yes. She leans against the doorframe. You could have sent Min. Or nothing, the warrants are gone, the case is closed. We're done. He pauses. You didn't send Min. No. Why? He holds her gaze. Because you asked me a question on a rooftop, he says. And I didn't answer it. The hallway is very quiet. I'm asking it again, she says. Was any of it real? He is still for a moment. The parking garage, he says. When you got into my car, I had been in that structure for 40 minutes on operational business that had nothing to do with you. You were not part of any plan. Pauses. When you yanked that door open, I had 2 options. Put you out and let Preston's people find you. Or laugh, she says. Something moves at the corner of his mouth. I laughed because you were the most unexpected thing that had happened to me in 4 years. Because the way you got into that car, no plan, no calculation, just pure decision, was the first honest thing I had seen in a very long time. She is quiet. Everything after that, he says. The compound, the fundraiser, the rooftop, was you. The word standing alone, the way he lets important things stand. Without qualification, without protection. Yes, it was real. She looks at him. Runs the model. Every data point across 5 weeks and 4 days and 1 rooftop in Westside Atlanta. Every kept promise. Every room where he stayed when he could have left. Every moment of that complete, unhurried attention, directed at her, she understands now, since the second she got into his car. The numbers match the story. You owe me something, she says. You wait. You named your price in a parking garage at midnight. You got everything. The drive, Camille, Preston in federal custody, your organization back. She tilts her head. I never named mine. No, he says. You didn't. I'm naming it now. You wait. And Jade Monroe, forensic accountant, woman who ran in stolen heels and got into a stranger's car and decoded 2 years of her own complicity and stood on a rooftop and said you cannot confiscate me. Looks at Kang Seo-jin with the clear-eyed directness of a woman who has paid every cost already and is spending what's left entirely on her own terms. A real first date, she says. No operations. No drives. No earpieces. You, me, and an honest conversation about what we actually are. He looks at her. The thing underneath all of the controlled surfaces. Present. Unguarded. That's your price, he says. That's my price. A long moment. Then, quietly, with the specific weight of a man who does not say things he does not mean. When? She steps back from the door. Right now, she says. Come inside. I'll make coffee. You don't have to. It requires a specific button sequence, she says. I'll teach you. He looks at her. And Kang Seo-jin, the Korean situation, the most feared name in Atlanta's underworld, the man who laughed in a parking garage and meant every word he said after, walks through the door of Jade Monroe's apartment like a man walking towards something he has been careful not to want for a very long time. She closes the door behind him. They sit at her kitchen table. The coffee requires 3 button presses in a specific order. He watches her demonstrate it with the complete attention he brings to everything. When she hands him the mug, he wraps both hands around it, the way she has seen him hold things he intends to keep. She notices this, files it. Outside, the dogwoods are doing their April thing, blooming against a sky that still cannot decide. The window above the sink lets in the faint sound of the neighborhood settling into its Tuesday evening. "Tell me something," she says. "Something that has nothing to do with any of this." He thinks about it. "There's a coastline," he says. 3 hours south of Seoul. I went once when I was 9, before everything changed." He looks at the coffee. "I've thought about going back for 20 years. I haven't." "Why not?" "Because the version in my memory is sufficient. Going back risks replacing it." She looks at him. "That's the saddest thing I've ever heard," she says. Something moves through his expression. "Is it? You have been protecting a memory from a real experience for 20 years, she says. "Because the real thing might not match what you built." She holds his gaze. "That sounds familiar." He is quiet for a moment. "Yes, it does." "Go back," she says. "To the coastline." "Yes. Alone." She looks at him across the kitchen table. At the angular, still face that has been reading her since a parking garage at midnight and has never once gotten it wrong. At the hands around the mug. At the man who is not soft and has never pretended to be. Sitting in her kitchen on a Tuesday in April, entirely present without managing it. "We'll see," she says. The corner of his mouth moves. Not almost a smile. Smile. Real. Unguarded. Brief. The smile of a man who has not had cause to produce one in a very long time and finds the experience. She watches it happen, worth the unfamiliarity. She looks at it for exactly as long as it lasts. Then she picks up her coffee and looks out the window at the April street. The quiet of the apartment settles around them. Not the quiet of performing safety. Not the quiet of holding something against her side and pretending it doesn't hurt. The quiet of two people who have been through something real, and are choosing, with full knowledge of what the other one is worth, to find out what comes next. She chose the apartment. The job. The door, stepping back, letting him through, naming her price in her own words on her own terms. Jade Monroe is, she thinks, very good at choosing now. It just took her a while to understand the choosing was always hers. And that's where our story lands. Not with a rescue. Not with a fairy tale. With a woman who burned down the machine she was built into, and walked out the other side knowing exactly what she was worth. And a man who laughed in a parking garage, and meant every single word he said after. If this story got you, if you were here from that parking garage from the moment Jade got into the wrong car and changed everything, subscribe right now so you never miss what we build next. And drop a comment. Where in the world are you watching from? I want to know how far this story traveled.